"If you carry me up the stairs, I'll tell you a secret," said the sick little girl. Her voice was soft, fragile, and full of something mysterious that instantly pulled at the heart. The words came from a child too weak to walk on her own, but strong enough to still carry wonder in her eyes. And the one who heard her was not her father, nor a nurse, but a man covered in grease, his rough hands scarred by years of repairing engines, the town's mechanic. He was the last person anyone would expect to be standing at the bottom of those steps, looking up at a little girl who was too sick to climb them alone. But life had placed him there, and that moment would change everything, not only for the girl but for the mechanic himself and for everyone who listens to her secret today. The mechanic's name was Samir, a man in his 40s who worked in a small workshop near the edge of town. He was known for being tough, quiet, and always lost in his own world of clanking tools and the smell of motor oil. People came to him for repairs, but no one came to him for comfort. He had no family, no children, no wife, only a lonely house filled with silence after long days of labor. Life had made him hard, or maybe he had made himself hard to survive. Yet, when he looked into the eyes of this little girl named Amina, sitting at the bottom of the staircase in the old building where his friend lived, something inside him softened. She was thin, pale, and breathing slowly, like every breath took effort. But her eyes, those wide brown eyes, were alive, sparkling with a strange mixture of mischief and pain. Samir had come that evening to deliver a fixed motorbike to his friend upstairs. The elevator was broken, and the staircase stretched long and steep. Amina had been waiting at the bottom, clutching a small worn-out teddy bear. "If you carry me up the stairs," she whispered, "I'll tell you a secret." Samir hesitated. He wasn't used to children. He wasn't used to caring. But something in her voice, the way she said secret as if it carried the weight of the universe, broke through the wall around his heart. Without a word, he bent down, lifted her fragile body into his strong, greasy arms, and began to climb. Every step felt heavier than the last, not because of her weight, she was light as a feather, but because he could feel her weakness, her trembling body pressed against his chest. Her head rested on his shoulder, and for the first time in years, Samir felt something he hadn't felt, needed. The stairs creaked, his breath grew heavy, but she whispered encouragements into his ear, as though she was the one carrying him. When they finally reached the top, her small hand touched his face and she said, "Thank you, you're stronger than you think. Now I'll tell you the secret." But before she could, her mother came rushing out, worried and apologizing. She took Amina into her arms and thanked Samir endlessly. He left without hearing the secret that night. Yet he couldn't shake her words, her eyes, her frail body. Something about her had planted a seed inside him. Over the next weeks, Samir found himself visiting that building more often. Sometimes he made excuses, saying he needed to check the motorbike or help with the elevator, but in truth, he wanted to see Amina. She was always waiting, sometimes on the stairs, sometimes in the courtyard, her teddy bear always with her. Her sickness was worsening, but she never complained. Instead, she would ask Samir questions about engines, about why cars needed fuel, about why people needed hearts. Her questions were innocent yet so deep that Samir often found himself speechless. Slowly, he began to share pieces of his life with her, the loneliness he never admitted to anyone, the pain of losing his parents young, the emptiness of working all day only to return to silence. And in return, Amina gave him laughter, warmth, and hope. One rainy evening, she finally reminded him of the secret. "Do you remember what I promised you?" she asked. He nodded. She leaned closer and whispered, "I know my time here won't be long. My sickness is taking me away slowly. But I'm not afraid, because I believe I was sent to meet you. My secret is, you're not as alone as you think. God gave you me so you wouldn't forget what love feels like." Samir froze. Tears he didn't know he had tried to hold back came pouring. He had never cried in front of anyone since he was a child, but that night he couldn't stop. Amina held his hand and smiled, "When I'm gone, you must promise to keep carrying people, not up the stairs, but through life. Carry them with your kindness, your strength. That's your purpose." Her words burned into his heart. He wanted to argue, to say she would survive, that she couldn't just give up. But deep down, he knew she was right. She was slipping away. Days turned into weeks, and her condition worsened. Samir started spending more time at her home, fixing things for her mother, cooking, cleaning, things he had never done in his life. He became family to them. He became a father figure to Amina, even if only for a short while. The day came when her small body couldn't fight anymore. Samir was there, holding her hand, when she whispered her last words, "Don't forget the secret. Carry people." And with that, she closed her eyes forever. Samir was broken, but also transformed. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of love, loss, and purpose. He carried her memory everywhere he went. At his workshop, he began helping not just with machines, but with people, offering free repairs to those in need, mentoring young boys who had no fathers, feeding hungry children who wandered nearby. He carried them, just as Amina had asked. Years later, people in the town began calling him Uncle Samir, not just the mechanic. He was the man who helped, who lifted others when they had no strength left. Every time he carried someone through hardship, he felt Amina's presence, her small hand on his face, her voice whispering, "You're stronger than you think." And so, the secret of a sick little girl lived on, not in whispers, not in shadows, but in every life touched by the man who learned to carry people, because once upon a time, a dying child had asked him to carry her up the stairs.